The girl hadn't eaten for 2 days. Her lips were dry and split, her eyes sore from dust and being scared, her wrist tied with rough rope that hurt every time she moved. The sun in Dodge City was super hot that summer of 1876, making everything feel like an oven. Even the air seemed to buzz with meanness. She sat on the back of a wooden wagon by the stockyard, her clothes ripped, no shoes, shaking, with men around her laughing. They said she was lucky to be alive, but Leah Byrne didn't feel lucky. She felt like a scared animal waiting for something bad. When she whispered, her voice was so soft it was like a ghost. "Please, do it fast." Nobody cared. The crowd was busy arguing over her like she was a horse for sale. Silas Crow, the guy who pulled her off the Santa Fe Trail, waved a paper in the air. His beard was dirty with tobacco and his eyes were cold, like he was sizing up a cow. "She costs more to feed than she's worth," Silas said, grabbing Leah's chin to show her face. "Someone take her before the marshal finds out I'm selling people, not cows." The men laughed again, a rough sound like rocks rattling in a tin can. Leah shut her eyes. She was taught to pray in times like this, but no words came. What kind of God would let this happen? Then the crowd moved apart. A tall man walked through the group. His shadow covered Leah, blocking the harsh sun. She looked up, expecting another mean face, another hand checking her like merchandise. But this guy was different. He was taller than most, with strong shoulders from years of hard work. His face was worn like a map of the tough frontier, with deep lines around eyes that had seen too much. Gray streaks ran through his dark hair and beard, and a long scar went from his left temple to his jaw. He wore plain clothes, dusty from the trail, with no fancy guns or shiny belt buckle. The only thing that made him stand out was how the crowd got quiet when he came near. Eli McKenna, 58 years old, a former Union Army captain, a widower, a rancher, a man who had lost more than most people ever faced. Silas Crow knew him right away. His smile faded. "Captain McKenna," Silas said, sounding tired. "Here to buy some cows, huh?" Eli's eyes stayed on Leah's face. In them, she saw not greed or meanness, but something calm, like her dad before the war broke him. "How much?" Eli asked, his voice low and rough from a hard life. Silas grinned wide again. "She's used, talks too much. Give me $20 and she's yours," the crowd murmured. Some guys laughed. Others looked uneasy. Eli reached into his pocket. "20's a lot for someone like her. For you, Captain." Silas paused, his eyes flashing with something mean. $1. The crowd burst out laughing. A human life for $1. The worst insult to both the girl and Eli. Without a word, Eli pulled out a worn coin and dropped it on the barrel between them. The metal clinked, stopping the noise. Everyone froze. "Write a bill of sale," Eli said, his voice soft but strong, like he was still giving orders from the war. Silas blinked. "What?" "Put your name on that paper," Eli said again. "So everyone knows this deal was yours." Silas's face showed he understood, then turned red with anger. Out here, even $1 made a sale real, and what Silas thought was just a mean joke was now proof. Selling people could get a man hanged in Kansas. Silas's hand shook a little as he took a pen from someone watching and scribbled his name on the paper, then shoved it at Eli. "Take her and go," he growled. Eli folded the paper carefully and tucked it in his coat. Only then did he look at Leah. "Get off that wagon," he said. Leah froze. She thought he was going to end her pain right there. Maybe that was kindness. Maybe that was what freedom sounded like in a place where people were cheaper than horses. She stood, her legs wobbly, waiting for the hurt to come. Instead, Eli pulled a knife from his belt and cut her ropes in one quick move. He didn't touch her otherwise. "You can go wherever you want," he said, just for her to hear. "But if you need a safe place, my wagon's heading north." When Leah realized what he'd done, her legs gave out. He hadn't bought her. He'd set her free. As the crowd left, muttering, a man in a black coat stayed back by the stockyard. He watched Eli help Leah off the wagon, then turned to a friend. "Tell the judge what happened here," he said quietly. "Tell him McKenna's back in Kansas." The road out of Dodge was dry and seemed to go on forever. The sun glowed red like blood low over the plains, showing the day was almost done. Leah sat on the side of Eli's wagon, her hands still sore from the ropes, her mind trying to understand what just happened. She was free. At least that's what the stranger said. But freedom felt weird when you had nowhere to go. Eli rode beside her, quiet like someone who didn't need to talk much. He didn't ask where she was from. He didn't ask what Silas had done. He just said, we'll ride till the creek. You'll eat there. When they stopped at a small stream off the Arkansas River, the water sparkled like silver in the fading light. Eli set up camp without saying much. He gave her a canteen and half a loaf of bread with some dried beef. It wasn't kindness in his eyes. It was something stronger, like duty. Leah drank a lot, then splashed water on her face and hands. The cold water stung her sore wrists, but it felt like coming back to life. "Why'd you help me?" she asked, her voice clearer now that her throat wasn't so dry. "You didn't even know my name." Eli didn't look up from the fire he was starting. "Didn't need to. Was it because you fought in the war against slavery?" That made him stop. He looked at her for the first time since Dodge. War's been over 11 years. "Didn't stop guys like Crow. You knew him?" "I knew what he was." Eli set up the fire with practiced hands. "Used to hunt guys like him after the war." "You were a bounty hunter." Leah pulled the blanket he gave her tighter around her shoulders. The fire started and shadows moved across his face. "Tracked Silas once for killing a family near Topeka. He got away. Had friends in high places." Leah watched him in the firelight. She'd learned to read people. Her dad was a preacher in Boston before they moved west, before he lost his faith and everything else. "What made you stop?" she asked. "Hunting men." For a long moment, Eli was quiet. "Then my wife." He didn't say more, and Leah knew not to push. The plains taught her when to stay quiet. Instead, she stared into the fire, letting its warmth sink into her. After they ate, Eli unrolled a bedroll for her a bit away from his. "Sleep," he said. "We've got a long way to go tomorrow." "Where are we going?" "My ranch is north near the Cimarron." "You can stay till you figure out your next step." Leah nodded, though she wasn't sure. "My name's Leah," she said. "Leah Byrne." Eli nodded once. "Eli McKenna." Later, as coyotes howled to the rising moon, Leah lay awake, watching stars that seemed close enough to touch. Despite the fear and uncertainty, for the first time in weeks, she didn't feel like prey. Across the fire, Eli sat awake, carving a piece of cedar with a small knife. His hands were rough but careful. In the firelight, his face looked like it was carved from the same wood. The night was clear, the kind that usually brought peace to a man who lived by the seasons. But peace wasn't with Eli McKenna. The girl across the fire had brought up old memories. He could almost hear Maria whispering to him in the wind. "This is why you survived the war, mi amor." To help others survive the peace, Maria Vasquez McKenna, a Mexican-American nurse who helped Union soldiers. The woman who saved him not just from death, but from the man he was turning into after the war. The woman who taught him vengeance and justice weren't the same. The woman who died of fever 2 years ago, or so he thought. Eli's hand stopped on the wood. Something about the girl had stirred doubts he'd had for months. A letter from an old army friend last spring hinted Maria's fever might not have been natural, that she'd gotten mixed up in something dangerous before she died. Eli shook his head. Those were thoughts for later. Right now, he had to get the girl to safety. After that, he'd go back to his quiet life on the ranch. That was the plan anyway. But plans, like promises, rarely lasted out here. Morning brought clear thinking and caution. Eli was already packing camp when Leah woke. She found a clean shirt folded near her blanket. Too big, but clean and smelling of cedar. "Thanks," she said, holding the fabric. Eli nodded, not looking at her. "Creek's private if you want to wash up. We leave in 20 minutes. When Leah came back, her face and hands clean, hair braided, she found Eli checking his rifle. His movements showed years of practice. "You're expecting trouble," she said. "Always am." He glanced at her. "Crow won't let this go. Because of the paper you made him sign." Eli nodded, a bit proud. Leah hesitated, then stood straighter. I should tell you why I was on that wagon. Don't need to know. Yes, you do. Her voice was strong now. If you're risking your life, Eli looked at her for a moment, then nodded for her to go on. My dad was a preacher in Boston, she started. After the war, we moved to Missouri. He thought the frontier needed God. A sad smile crossed her lips. What it needed was rain and fewer bugs. The drought of '70. Eli nodded. He remembered it. We lost everything. My parents died in the fever that came after. I was 18 alone. She looked at her hands. I became a teacher at a small school. It wasn't much, but it was honest. Eli waited, patient as the plains. 6 months ago, I got an offer to be a governess for a merchant's daughter in Santa Fe. Good pay, respectable job. Her voice got hard. It was a trick. The merchant worked for guys like Crow. They take educated girls, break them, then sell them to men who want... She couldn't finish. I've heard of those schemes, Eli said quietly. Didn't think they'd reach this far north. Leah looked up, her eyes fierce. There's more. My sister Rebecca disappeared a year ago. I took the governess job because I heard rumors. I thought I might find her. That's why you fought so hard they had to tie you? She nodded. I found a book in the house, names of girls, where they were sent. Rebecca's name was there. Eli's face got dark. Where? A place called Willow Creek Ranch. The note said, special training, judge's orders. For the first time since they met, Eli looked really shaken. Judge, he repeated. You know who that is? Before Eli could answer, the sound of horses coming fast broke the morning quiet. 3 riders from the direction of Dodge. Eli was up in a second, rifle in hand. Get in the wagon, he ordered. Keep your head down. Leah scrambled to obey, her heart racing. From her spot, she could just see the riders coming. The leader had a tarnished silver star on his vest. Sheriff Ward, Eli muttered, his face grim. The riders stopped about 20 yards from the camp. Sheriff Buford Ward was a short, heavy man with a red face and small, sneaky eyes. His badge didn't match the mean look on his face. Well, if it ain't the war hero himself, Ward called. Didn't expect you back here, McKenna. Just passing through, Eli replied, holding his rifle casually but ready. Ward's eyes moved to the wagon where Leah hid. Heard you bought something in Dodge yesterday. Risky business, buying people, even out here. Didn't buy a person, Eli shot back. Got proof of Silas Crow selling one, though. That's the real crime. Ward laughed. Might be up north, but this is Kansas. Law's different here. Law's the same everywhere, a new voice said. One of Ward's deputies spoke, a young guy, maybe 25, skinny like he'd known hunger. Unlike the sheriff, his badge looked shiny and new. Ward gave the young man an annoyed look. Nobody asked you, Foster. Deputy Ben Foster sat up straighter. Just saying, sir. Selling people ain't legal anywhere in the Union. It got quiet and tense. Leah could feel the bad blood between the sheriff and his deputy. There was a story there and not a nice one. Ward laughed harshly. I'm arresting you, McKenna, for messing with lawful business and causing trouble. On whose authority? Eli asked calmly. Mine and the territorial judges. At the word judge, Leah's breath caught. The book, the note about Rebecca, judge's orders. Deputy Foster, Ward barked. Arrest this man. Foster hesitated, looking between Ward and Eli. Sir, I don't see... That's an order, boy. Or did you forget which side lost the war? Foster stiffened at the jab. Leah noticed his slight southern accent, the way he sat his horse like a soldier. A Confederate then. A young man who was probably just a kid during the war, now working for a Union veteran who wouldn't let him forget it. War's over, Eli said quietly, talking to Foster. Now it's just men doing right or wrong. Something changed in Foster's face. He got off his horse slowly, keeping his hand away from his gun. Sheriff, I don't think Captain McKenna broke any law I swore to uphold. Ward's face turned red with rage. You traitor! His hand went to his gun, but Eli was faster. His rifle was up and aimed in one smooth move. Don't, Eli warned. Ward froze, then gave a thin smile. 2 against 1, McKenna. Bad odds, even for a hero. 3 against 1, Foster corrected, stepping near Eli. And I think the lady makes 4. Laya had come out of the wagon holding a small derringer she found under the seat. She didn't know if it was loaded, but her hands didn't shake as she aimed it at Ward. The sheriff's other deputy, a big guy with empty eyes, looked to Ward for orders. "This ain't over," Ward growled. "Judge Holbrook will hear about this. He doesn't like people messing with his business." Holbrook. Laya tucked the name away, linking it to the book's note. "Judge's orders. Ride back to Dodge," Eli said evenly. "Tell Crow to watch his back." For a moment it seemed Ward might try something. Then he spat on the ground and turned his horse. "Come on, Mills," he snapped at his deputy. As they rode off, Ward shouted back, "You're dead, Foster! You hear me? Dead." The dust hadn't settled when Foster turned to Eli. "I hope you know what you're doing, Captain." "Ward doesn't make empty threats." "Neither do I," Eli replied, lowering his rifle. "Why'd you side with us?" Foster's jaw tightened. "I didn't wear this badge to protect men who sell women." Eli looked at the younger man, then nodded once. The same nod he gave Laya, respect but not warm. "You better come with us," Eli said. "You can't go back to Dodge now." Foster looked at the dust from Ward's retreat. "No, sir, I can't." He turned back to Eli and Laya. "And neither can you. Not if Judge Holbrook's involved." "Tell me about Holbrook," Eli said, helping Laya back into the wagon. Foster's face darkened. "Former Confederate colonel, runs this part of Kansas like his own kingdom. He's the territorial judge officially, but unofficially." He glanced at Laya. "He's the one who built the cage you escaped from, ma'am." "Willow Creek Ranch," Laya said. "That's his place." Foster nodded grimly. "Among others. If your sister's there, God help her." Eli stared off where Ward went, his voice tight with anger. "I know Holbrook," he said, "from the war. He was at Vicksburg when we took it. Escaped before we could court-martial him for killing prisoners." "Then you know what we're up against," Foster said quietly. Eli looked at Foster, then Laya. "Get your horse," he told Foster. "We're heading to Fort Union." "Fort Union?" Laya asked. "That's in New Mexico territory." "Marshal Graham's there," Eli said. "Good man, war friend. He'll help us." Eli checked the wagon supplies. "It's a tough ride. Have to go through Rayton Pass." "Rayton Pass is like walking into an ambush," Foster argued. "Exactly why Ward won't expect us to go that way." Eli finished checking and climbed onto the wagon seat beside Laya. "Mount up, deputy." Daylight's wasting. As they pulled away from the creek, Laya glanced at Eli. "Why are you doing this?" "You could just leave me somewhere safe and go back to your life." Eli's eyes stayed on the horizon. "Some debts can't be paid back," he said finally, only passed on. She wanted to ask more, but his grim face stopped her. Instead, she looked ahead at the endless prairie. Somewhere out there was Rebecca. Somewhere out there was the truth. And behind them, like storm clouds, were men who'd kill to keep both hidden. Judge Nathaniel Holbrook stood at his study window, looking out at the neat lawns of Willow Creek Ranch. At 65, he was still tall and strong, with white hair and the fancy air of old Virginia money. The war took his plantation, but not his belief that some people were born to rule others. "You're sure it was McKenna?" he asked the man behind him. Sheriff Ward shifted, uneasy. "Yes, sir. No mistaking him. And he's got the Byrne woman with him. And your deputy, this Foster-turned-traitor, sided with McKenna." Ward's face got red with anger. "Never should have trusted a rebel." Holbrook turned, his sharp blue eyes on Ward. "And where are they going now?" "North, probably to McKenna's ranch." "No." Holbrook shook his head. "He wouldn't risk taking her there. Not if he knows who she is." He went to his desk and pulled out a leather book like the one Laya saw. McKenna was a tracker after the war, one of the best. If the girl told him about her sister, Ward paled. "Fort Union," he said. "He's taking her to Graham." "Indeed." Holbrook's voice was calm, but his fingers gripped the book tight. "That would be a problem." "I'll send men after them," Ward offered fast. "Cut them off before they reach the fort." "No." Holbrook closed the book. "McKenna's too good for your usual men." He walked to a cabinet, unlocked it, and revealed a telegraph machine. "This needs someone with a personal stake." He started tapping a message. "Who are you contacting, Judge?" Ward asked. Holbrook smiled thinly. An old friend of Captain McKenna's, someone who owes me a favor. He finished the message and turned to Ward. Go back to Dodge. Keep things quiet. I'll handle McKenna. After Ward left, Holbrook went back to the window. In the distance, he saw young women working in the gardens, all of them special trainees waiting to be sold to rich buyers across the Southwest. The war taught Holbrook a lot. Mainly, when society's rules changed, a smart man found new ways to make money off people. Slavery was gone, but there were other ways to trade lives. More profitable ways. And no old war hero was going to mess up the empire he'd built. Holbrook's eyes went to a portrait on the wall. Silas Crow as a young man, painted to hide the meanness always in his eyes. His son not by blood but by choice, a useful tool until now. You finally messed up, bad boy, Holbrook muttered to the painting. He went to his desk and took out a small silver case. Inside was a picture of a woman with bold features and defiant eyes. Maria Vasquez McKenna. Your husband's as much trouble as you were, my dear, he said to the image. Let's hope he ends the same way. He snapped the case shut and locked it away. Then he sat to write another message, this one to a senator in Washington who liked what Willow Creek Ranch offered quietly. Things were moving. Eli McKenna would never reach Fort Union alive, and if he did, he'd find no safety there. As evening came, Eli led their little group into a hidden ravine where the wagon could stay out of sight. The first day's travel was tense, but okay. The wide Kansas prairie giving little cover for them or anyone following. We camp here tonight, Eli said, helping Leah down from the wagon. No fire. Foster got off his horse, wincing a bit. You think someone's already after us? Better to assume so, Eli said, starting to untack the horses. Ward's not the type to let things go. Leah helped, her city hands clumsy but trying. This Judge Holbrook, she said quietly. If he's behind the missing girls, why? Hasn't anyone stopped him? Foster gave a bitter laugh. Who'd stop him? He's the law around here. Not all law, Eli corrected. Just the part with a badge. They worked quietly, setting up a cold camp as the light faded. When the horses were settled and they shared some jerky and hard bread, the three sat in the growing dark, each thinking their own thoughts. How far to Fort Union? Leah asked. 4, maybe 5 days if we push hard, Eli replied. Depends on what we find at Rayton Pass. And Marshal Graham, Foster added. Will he help without proof? Eli's face got hard in the dim light. Graham will help. He's been after guys like Holbrook since the war ended, even with a Confederate's word. Foster's voice had a challenge. Eli looked at him straight. Graham doesn't care what uniform you wore, only what kind of man you are now. Something passed between the two men, old enemies finding common ground in a bigger fight. Leah watched them, curious. You fought for the South? She asked Foster. He nodded, his face guarded. Joined at 16, last year of the war. My dad said good men fought on both sides, Leah said. He was a chaplain with the Union. Your dad sounds wise, Foster said quietly. He was, Leah agreed, until he lost his faith. War does that? Eli said, his voice far off. Takes things you didn't think could be taken. They stopped talking. Eventually, Eli stood. I'll take first watch. Foster, you're second. Miss Byrne needs rest. I can take a watch, too, Leah said. Eli shook his head. You need sleep more than we do. I'm not helpless, she insisted. That derringer under your wagon seat, I know how to use it. My dad taught me after the war when we moved west. Foster smiled a bit at her spunk. She's got fire, Captain. Fire won't stop a bullet, Eli said, but there was a hint of respect in his voice. Fine, you take third watch before dawn. Wake Foster at the smallest sound, got it? Leah nodded, happy with her small win. As the night got darker, Leah lay on her bedroll, looking at the stars. Despite the danger, despite not knowing what was next, she felt a strange sense of purpose. For months she'd been searching for Rebecca, chasing whispers and rumors. Now she had names, faces, targets for her anger and determination. Across the camp, Eli stood at the edge of the ravine, scanning the dark prairie. The girl reminded him of Maria, not in looks, but in that stubborn will. Maria was gentle but had steel inside. It's what drew him to her after the war, when he was just a ghost with a gun, hunting other ghosts across a broken country trying to rebuild. She saved him from what he was becoming, and he failed to save her. Or had he? The doubt ate at him again. The letter from his army friend. Rumors about Maria helping women escape men like Holbrook. The fever that took her so fast. Eli's hand went to his coat pocket where he kept Maria's faded picture. Next to it was Lia's bill of sale, Silas Crow's signature, a dangerous confession. 2 pieces of paper, one for what he lost, one for what he might save. In the distance, a coyote howled, a sad sound carrying the loneliness of the plains. Another answered, then another. A pack gathering in the night just like the men coming for them. Eli checked his rifle and settled for his watch, eyes fixed on the horizon where dawn would break, bringing whatever fate awaited at Rayton Pass. Dawn came cold and quiet over the Kansas prairie. Eli woke Lia for the last watch, his hand gentle but firm on her shoulder. "Any trouble?" she asked, voice sleepy. "Nothing yet," he replied. "Keep your eyes on that ridge to the east. First light shows movement best." As Eli lay down, Lia took her spot at the ravine's edge. The derringer felt small in her hand, but its weight calmed her. The plains spread out, painted purple and gold by the rising sun. Beautiful but harsh, like everything here. Foster stirred as the light grew, joining her at the lookout. "He doesn't sleep much, does he?" Lia nodded toward Eli, who lay with an arm over his eyes, but his breathing showed he wasn't asleep. "Men who've seen what he has don't," Foster replied. "Captain McKenna was at Antietam, bloodiest day of the war. You know a lot about him." Foster's mouth twitched in a half-smile. "Every Confederate kid knew about Captain McKenna, feared him, respected him too, and yet you trust him. War makes weird judgments of men, Miss Byrne, but what a man does in peace, that's the real measure." He glanced at Eli. "He could have killed Silas Crow yesterday. Chose justice instead." Lia thought about this. "And you? What made a Southern boy become a Kansas deputy?" Pain crossed Foster's face. "After Appomattox, there wasn't much left of my home in Virginia. Came west like everyone, looking for a fresh start under Sheriff Ward." Lia couldn't hide her doubt. Badge was about, until I saw what it really stood for. Foster checked his revolver, a nervous habit. 2 months ago, a girl went missing near Dodge. 14. When I asked questions, Ward told me to stop. Said it wasn't police business. "That's when you knew." Foster nodded. "Found proof linking Ward to Judge Holbrook and Holbrook to a dozen missing women." His jaw tightened. "I was collecting evidence when you and the captain turned everything upside down." Before Lia could reply, Eli was beside them, rifle in hand, fully awake. "Riders," he said quietly, pointing to a dust cloud on the horizon. 4, maybe 5. Foster squinted. "Ward, too far east." Ward would have come from Dodge, south. Eli studied the riders. "They're riding straight. They know where they're going." "How? Why?" Lia asked. "We left no trail." Eli's face darkened. "Holbrook has resources, and there's only one place we'd go. Fort Union," Foster said. "He's cutting us off before Rayton Pass." "Break camp," Eli ordered. We moved now. They packed fast, erasing their tracks. Within minutes, they were moving again, Eli pushing the horses harder than yesterday. "If we can't go through Rayton Pass, where do we go?" Lia asked, holding the wagon seat as they bounced over rough ground. "There's another way," Eli said grimly. "Through Apache territory." Foster, riding beside, looked at Eli sharply. "That's crazy, Captain. Maybe. But Holbrook's men won't follow us there." "They'll think we're already dead," Foster muttered. Lia glanced between them. "I thought the Apache were at peace." "Some are," Eli said. "Others still fight. The area I'm thinking of is disputed. Neither white men nor peaceful Apache go there willingly." "Then why us?" Eli's eyes stayed on the horizon. "Because I know someone there who might help." "Another war friend?" Foster asked, skeptical. "Not exactly." Eli flicked the reins, speeding the horses. "He fought against me. Best scout the Confederate Army had in New Mexico." Foster's eyebrows went up. "Thomas Clark, 2 Rivers." Eli nodded. After the war, he married an Apache woman. Lives with her people. Last I heard, he's still there. And you think he'll help us? Laya asked. A former enemy? A small smile touched Eli's lips. Clark and I tried to kill each other 3 times during the war. By the third, we kind of respected each other. That's not an answer, Foster pointed out. No, Eli agreed. It isn't. They rode quietly for a while, the wagon cutting across the prairie away from their chasers. By mid-morning, the land changed, flat plains turning to hills with sandstone rocks. Laya, watching the dust cloud of their pursuers, felt her stomach tighten. They're getting closer, she said. Eli nodded. Wagon's too slow. We need to split up. No, Laya said right away. We stay together. Miss Byrne, I've been searching for my sister for a year, Mr. McKenna. I'm not sitting this out when I'm so close. Her eyes burned with determination. And I'm not leaving you two to face those men alone. Foster chuckled despite the tension. I'm starting to think you'd have been a great soldier, Miss Byrne. Eli looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but we need a trick. He glanced at the wagon. Foster, help me. They pulled into a rock formation's shadow. Fast, Eli and Foster unloaded key supplies, splitting them between the 3 horses. Then Eli rigged the wagon with a branch to hold the reins. Old army trick, he explained, setting a small fuse. Fire will make the horses run. Wagon'll keep going east for a bit. While we go where? Laya asked, now on Foster's spare horse. Eli pointed southwest to rugged hills. Apache territory starts there. 2 hours hard ride. As they got ready to leave, Foster hesitated. Captain, if Clark won't help us, what then? Eli checked his rifle one last time. Then we do what soldiers do, Deputy. We figure it out. He lit the fuse and slapped the lead horse. The wagon rolled out onto the prairie heading east. Now we ride, Eli said, and don't look back. The sun was brutal as they rode toward the Apache hills. Laya's city body ached from riding, but she kept up without complaining. The Derringer was tucked in her belt, and Eli gave her a canteen of her own. Small signs of trust that meant more than words. Foster rode ahead, checking the path, while Eli stayed by Laya. He didn't talk much, but his steady presence was comforting, like a rock in this dangerous place. Tell me about your sister, Eli said suddenly, breaking hours of quiet. Laya looked at him, surprised. Rebecca, she's 22 years younger than me. Always the pretty one, the charming one. A soft smile crossed her face. Papa said I got the brains, she got the beauty. What happened to her? The smile faded. After our parents died, we tried to keep the school going, but the drought, people couldn't pay. Rebecca took a job as a companion to an old lady in Topeka. Her voice tightened. 3 months later, her letters stopped. When I went looking, the old lady didn't exist. And that led you to Silas Crow. Laya nodded. I followed rumors. Stories of other missing girls ended up in Santa Fe, pretending to be a governess looking for work. That's where they caught me. Eli was quiet for a moment. You're either really brave or really foolish. Is there a difference out here? Not much, he admitted, then softer. My wife would have liked you. It was the chance Laya had waited for. How did she die, Mr. McKenna? For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Fever 2 years ago, or so I was told. You don't believe it? Eli's face stayed blank, but his hands tightened on the reins. Maria was Mexican-American, a healer. After the war, we settled near the Cimarron. She helped everyone, settlers, travelers, even Apache when they let her. He paused, staring at the hills. Last spring, I got a letter from an army friend. Said Maria was helping women escape from somewhere. Said her fever came too fast, too convenient. You think she was murdered? Laya said softly. It wasn't a question. I think, Eli said carefully, that Judge Holbrook's reach is long and Maria couldn't stand injustice. Before Laya could say more, Foster rode back fast, his face urgent. Riders coming from the west, he said. Not the same ones from this morning. Apache, maybe. Eli scanned the horizon. Or Comancheros pretending to be Apache. What do we do? Laya asked, fear twisting in her stomach. Keep riding, Eli said firmly. Steady pace, no sudden moves, and let me do the talking. The new riders came fast. 5 men on painted ponies, faces marked with red and black paint. They carried rifles and traditional weapons, common for tribes still fighting reservation life. They formed a half-circle, blocking the path. Their leader, with an eagle feather in his hair, spoke sharply in his language. To Laya's surprise, Eli answered in the same tongue, slow but clear. The leader's face showed surprise, then suspicion. "What are you telling them?" Foster asked quietly. "That we're looking for Thomas Clark, 2 Rivers," Eli said, keeping his hands away from his weapons, "and that we mean no harm to their people." The leader studied them, his dark eyes lingering on Laya. He spoke again, pointing at her. Eli stiffened a bit. "He wants to know if you're my woman." Laya's cheeks got warm despite everything. "What should I say?" "Nothing. I'll handle it." Eli spoke again to the leader, respectful but firm. Whatever he said made the Apache talk among themselves. After what felt like forever, the leader nodded and motioned for them to follow. "What happened?" Foster asked as they rode behind the Apache. "I told them you're a peace officer looking into crimes against women of all tribes," Eli said quietly. "And that Laya's a teacher helping find missing girls." "That's pretty much true," Laya said, surprised. "Best kind of lie," Eli replied. "The kind wrapped around truth." They rode quietly deeper into the hills, the land getting rougher, with red rock formations and sparse plants. It was beautiful in a tough way, demanding respect, not love. After an hour, they reached a hidden canyon with a small stream, cottonwoods, and willows giving shade. At the far end were structures, some Apache wickiups, others log and adobe buildings. In front of the biggest one sat an old man. Even from a distance, he stood out, tall and lean, with white hair braided and wrapped in leather, wearing buckskins and a faded cavalry jacket with no badges. A Spencer carbine lay across his knees, a war relic like him. As they got off their horses, led by the Apache escorts, the old man stood. Despite being 70 or older, he moved smoothly. "Well, I'll be darned," he said, his raspy voice from the deep south. "If it ain't Captain Eli McKenna, the Yankee ghost himself." Clark, Eli nodded. "Been a long time." Thomas Clark, 2 Rivers to the Apache, studied them with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Must be bad times if you're asking me for help, McKenna." "Bad enough." Clark's eyes moved to Foster, noting his deputy badge. "And a lawman, too. Interesting friends you got?" Then he looked at Laya, his face softening a bit. "Ma'am," Laya nodded, unsure how to act. This man was neither fully white nor Apache, but something unique, shaped by the frontier. "Water for our guests," Clark told an Apache man in English. Then to Eli, "Better come inside and tell me what trouble's big enough to bring Captain McKenna into Apache land." Clark's home was cool and dim, a relief from the hot sun. It was simple but clean, with a mix of white and Apache things. Books sat next to medicine bundles. A cavalry sword hung by a war shield. They sat with water and dried meat, and Clark gave Eli a hard look. "Talk." Eli explained everything clearly, like a soldier. Laya's capture and rescue, finding out about Judge Holbrook's scheme, their run to Fort Union, and the men chasing them. Clark listened without interrupting, his worn face showing nothing. When Eli finished, the old scout leaned back, rubbing his knife's handle. "Holbrook," he said finally. "Hoped I'd never hear that name again." "You know him?" Foster asked. "Fought under him at Valverde. He was a butcher even then." Clark's eyes darkened with memory. "After the war, when I settled with Red Willow's people, Holbrook was an Indian agent for a while. Used it to steal from tribes and sell young women." "Like Rebecca," Laya said quietly. Clark looked at her. "Your sister?" She nodded, throat tight. "Holbrook has a place called Willow Creek Ranch," Foster added. "We think it's where he keeps the women before selling them." "I know it," Clark confirmed. "My wife's niece vanished 3 winters ago. Tracked her there." His face hardened. "Never came out." "Then you get why we need to reach Fort Union," Eli said. "Marshal Graham can help us shut Holbrook down legally." Clark gave a bitter laugh. "Law doesn't touch men like Holbrook." "Never has." "It will this time," Eli insisted. "If we get there alive." The old scout studied him. "You've changed, McKenna. Time was you'd have shot Holbrook and been done. That was before Maria." Something passed between the two men, a shared history Laya couldn't fully understand. "Your wife," Clark said softly. "The healer." Eli nodded, face tight with emotion. Clark sighed, looking every bit his age. "She came here once, 3 years ago, brought a half-dead Apache girl taken from a hunting party." Laya felt Eli go still beside her. "Maria asked for a safe place for the girl," Clark went on. "Said she was helping women escape men who sold them. Said there were more she planned to help." "Did she name Holbrook?" Eli's voice was careful. "Not by name, but she was scared. McKenna, I offered her safety here. She said no." Clark's eyes held real regret. "Said she had to go back or others would suffer. Said her husband's name would protect her." The silence was heavy. Laya could feel Eli realizing Maria was in deep trouble, something that likely led to her death, and she kept it from him to protect him. "When did she die?" Clark asked quietly. 6 months later, Eli said, voice rough. "Sudden fever." Clark shook his head. "No fever. Probably poison." Holbrook's favorite way to deal with enemies. Foster leaned forward. "Mr. Clark, we need to get to Fort Union. Can you help us?" The old scout glanced at Eli, who sat stiffly, taking in the truth of his worst fears. "There's a path through these hills," Clark said finally. "An Apache trail south of Raton Pass joins the main road to Fort Union. Holbrook's men won't know it." "Will you guide us?" Laya asked. Clark looked at her, then back at Eli. "For McKenna's wife, I will. And for the missing women." He stood, decision made. "Rest today. We leave at first light." As Clark went outside to prepare, Laya touched Eli's arm gently. "I'm sorry about Maria." Eli didn't answer right away, staring at some far-off place where the past lived. "She was trying to do what I couldn't," he said finally. "Save those women, and she died for it. We'll finish what she started," Laya promised. "For Rebecca, for Maria, for all of them." Eli looked at her, really looked, like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. In his eyes, Laya saw sadness, but also new purpose. "Yes," he said quietly, "we will." That night, while Eli and Foster talked routes with Clark, Laya sat outside, watching stars light up the desert sky. The Apache women were kind, giving her food and a chance to bathe in the stream. Now, clean and fed for the first time in days, she let herself hope. She was close to Rebecca now. She could feel it. And in Eli McKenna and Ben Foster, she'd found friends who understood what was at stake. A shadow fell over her, and she looked up to see an elderly Apache woman nearby, holding something wrapped in soft leather. The woman didn't speak English, but her gestures were clear. She wanted Laya to take the package. "Thank you," Laya said, taking it with a nod. The woman watched as Laya unwrapped the leather, revealing a small knife with a bone handle carved with strange symbols. "It's beautiful," Laya said, though the woman couldn't understand. The woman touched her heart, then pointed to Leia, then made a cutting motion toward the horizon, toward Willow Creek. The meaning was clear. For your heart, to set it free when you reach your goal. Laya's eyes filled with tears. This woman knew what it was to lose someone to men like Holbrook. The knife wasn't just a weapon, but a sign of support. "Thank you," Laya said again, holding the woman's worn hand. The woman nodded and slipped away like a shadow, leaving Laya with the blade gleaming in the starlight. A weapon more personal than the Derringer, meant for close, deadly work. She wrapped it carefully and tucked it into her boot. Then she looked toward Willow Creek Ranch, where Rebecca waited. Tomorrow they'd ride, and Judge Nathaniel Holbrook would learn that not all women could be bought and sold like cows. Some fought back. Cole Wilson stood at the edge of Raton Pass, studying tracks by moonlight. At 50, he was still as dangerous as during the war, when he hunted deserters for the Union Army with cold skill. The years only made him sharper and harder. "Wagon turned east here," he told the men behind him. "But they left it. See how the tracks got deeper before moving on? They unloaded weight." Sheriff Ward shifted in his saddle, uneasy. He never liked Wilson. The man's cold eyes seemed to measure your worth in bullets, not dollars. "Where'd they go then?" Wilson pointed southwest. 3 horses riding fast toward Apache country. One of Ward's deputies whistled. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Wilson said. Or McKenna knows something we don't. He got on his horse. Decision made. We follow into Apache territory. Ward protested. Judge Holbrook didn't pay us to die. Wilson gave him that cold stare. Holbrook paid me to find McKenna and the girl. That's what I'll do. His hand rested on his gun. You can go back to the judge. Tell him you were scared of a few Indians. Ward's face burned with anger, but he stayed quiet. He'd seen Wilson kill for less. Thought so, Wilson said with a cold smile. We ride in an hour. Pack light, move fast. As the men got ready, Wilson looked at the hills where McKenna fled. They had history, he and the captain. Bad blood from the war and after, when they both hunted men for money. McKenna found a conscience. Wilson found it more profitable without one. Now Holbrook was paying big to take McKenna down, along with the burn woman and anyone helping them. Just business, Wilson told himself. Nothing personal. But as he checked his rifle and counted bullets, he knew he was lying. This hunt was personal. McKenna was the only man who ever beat him, the only target who escaped. The one mark on Wilson's perfect record as a manhunter. This time would be different. Only one would walk away. They left at dawn, a small group moving quietly through hidden Apache paths. Clark led, his knowledge of the land clear in every turn. 2 Apache warriors, Gray Wolf and Running Fox, came along, their presence both protection and guidance through their sacred land. Laya rode between Eli and Foster, her body sore but her spirit strong. The knife from the Apache woman was in her boot, a reminder of what was at stake. In her saddlebag was a small leather journal Clark gave her, with what he knew about Willow Creek Ranch. The ranch sits in a valley, Clark explained as they stopped to water the horses at a hidden spring. Main house on high ground watching everything. Bunkhouse for guards. 3 outbuildings where they keep the women. How many guards? Foster asked, looking at Clark's rough map drawn in the dirt. 15, maybe 20, ex-soldiers, well-armed. Eli frowned. And Holbrook comes and goes. Has a house in town, too, where he acts like a proper judge. Clark's mouth twisted in disgust. Word is he's planning something big, an auction for his special goods. Laya felt sick. When? Soon? Within the week. Clark glanced at her with sympathy. If your sister's there, that's when they'll move her. Then we don't have much time, Foster said. No, Eli agreed. But we do this right. Legal, through Graham. Clark grunted, skeptical, but didn't argue. He knew Eli's push for legal justice wasn't just stubbornness. It was the only way to take down Holbrook's whole operation, not just one ranch. They got back on their horses and kept going, following a dry riverbed through barren land. The sun climbed, baking the red rocks until they shimmered. Talk faded as they focused on the hard ride. By mid-afternoon, Clark stopped them at a narrow canyon with shade and cover. We rest here till dusk, he said. Night riding's safer from here on. We're close to Wilson's path. At Wilson's name, Foster looked to Eli. You know this guy hunting us? Eli nodded grimly. Cole Wilson, tracker, manhunter. Served together briefly in the war. He was Union? Foster sounded surprised. Not all Union men fought for good reasons, Eli said flatly. Wilson liked killing. The Army just gave him permission. After the war, Clark added, Wilson became a bounty hunter like McKenna. Difference was McKenna brought men in alive when he could. Wilson brought bodies. Easier to move, no chance of escape. Laya shivered. And this guy works for Judge Holbrook. Holbrook hires the best, Eli said. And Wilson's the best at what he does. Except he never caught you, Foster noted cleverly. A small smile crossed Eli's lips. No, he didn't. As the others ate a cold meal, Laya sat by Eli, who was cleaning his rifle with care. Can I ask you something, Mr. McKenna? He nodded, not looking up. What'll you do after this if we win? Eli's hands paused. Never thought that far. You must have some plan. Your ranch. Ranch was Maria's dream more than mine. He went back to cleaning. She wanted a safe home. Laya studied his face against the Red Canyon wall like an old coin. And what did you want? For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Peace, I guess. Never found it in revenge. Thought I found it with Maria. His voice got rough. Now I'm not sure it exists. It does, Laya said firmly. My dad lost his faith after the war, but before he died, he found it again. Said peace wasn't no struggle, but having purpose. Eli looked at her, his eyes thoughtful. Your dad sounds wise. He was when he wasn't stubborn. She smiled faintly. Kinda like you. The comparison made Eli chuckle softly, the first Leia heard from him. It changed his face, showing the younger man beneath the worn exterior. Rebecca and I, Leia went on, braver now, we talked about starting a real school out west, where girls could learn like boys. Her eyes got far away. That dream kept me going this past year through everything. It's a good dream, Eli said quietly. Worth fighting for. A calm silence settled between them, two hurt people finding a moment's peace in shared purpose. Clark came back from checking the trail. Riders, he said shortly. Coming fast from the south, 6 men. Eli was up instantly. Wilson. Clark nodded. Found our trail quicker than I thought. How? Foster demanded. This is Apache land. No white tracker should follow us here. Wilson's not just any tracker, Eli said grimly. And he knows me, knows how I think. He turned to Clark. How far to the main road? Still a day's ride, but there's a place ahead. Devil's Backbone. Narrow ridge. Good spot to defend if we have to fight. Eli thought it over. We keep moving. Try to reach the backbone before they catch us. If we can't, he didn't finish, but they all knew. They packed fast, erasing their tracks. As Leia got on her horse, dread grew in her stomach. The calm moment with Eli felt far away, like a dream in their harsh reality. They rode hard through the evening and into the night, guided by starlight and Clark's knowledge of the land. The path got narrow, forcing them to ride single file between tall rocks. Devil's Backbone, Clark said as they reached a sharp ridge outlined against the starry sky. Half a mile across, steep drops on both sides. Only one way in, one out. Eli studied the dangerous path. Good place for an ambush. Yes, Clark agreed. Question is, who's ambushing who? Can we go around? Leia asked. Clark shook his head. Not without adding 2 days? We don't have 2 days, Foster reminded them. Not if that auction's soon, Eli decided. Gray Wolf, running fox, he said to the Apache warriors who'd been quiet companions. Will you scout ahead? Make sure the path's clear? The 2 men looked at each other, then nodded. Without a word, they got off their horses and vanished into the dark, moving like shadows. We wait here, Eli told the others. If they're not back in 20 minutes, we assume the worst. Waiting was awful. Leia counted her heartbeats, each one loud in the heavy silence. Foster checked his revolver over and over, a nervous tick that didn't help her nerves. Only Eli and Clark seemed calm, though Leia sensed their tension, ready to spring at danger. 18 minutes passed when Gray Wolf appeared from the dark. Path clear? He reported in accented English. But men follow. Close now, how many? Eli asked. 6. The one in front? Gray Wolf made a slicing motion across his face. Scarred cheek, Clark translated. That's Wilson. Eli nodded grimly. We move now. Cross the backbone before they catch us in the open. They mounted fast, following Gray Wolf onto the narrow ridge. The path was barely wide enough for one horse, with cliffs dropping hundreds of feet on both sides. In the faint starlight, Leia saw jagged rocks below, waiting like teeth for anyone who slipped. She focused on Eli's back ahead, refusing to look down, refusing to let fear stop her. One step, one breath, like the year she spent searching for Rebecca. They were halfway across when a shot rang out. The bullet bounced off rock near Foster's head, sending bits flying. The horses shifted dangerously close to the edge. Wilson! Clark shouted. They've reached the ridge. Keep moving, Eli ordered. Gray Wolf, take Miss Byrne to the other side. No, Leia protested. I'm not leaving you. But Gray Wolf was already beside her, taking her horse's reins, pulling her forward faster. Eli, Foster, and Clark turned to face their chasers. More shots echoed across the canyon. Leia looked back, seeing muzzle flashes in the dark, but unable to tell if anyone was hit. Gray Wolf pushed her horse faster, forcing her to focus on the path. They reached the other side as dawn lit the east. Running Fox joined them, his arm bleeding from a bullet graze. No sign of the others. "We wait," Grey Wolf said firmly when Laya wanted to go back. "McKenna say protect you." "We protect." Laya felt helpless anger. She got off her horse, straining to see across the ridge, now half hidden by morning mist. The gunfire stopped, leaving a scary silence. Minutes felt like hours. The sun rose, burning off some mist, but still no Eli, Foster, or Clark. Then movement, a single figure leading a horse. Coming through the fog, Foster. Laya ran to him, relief fading when she saw his pained face, blood on his left side. "What happened? Where's Eli and Clark?" she asked. Foster winced, getting off his horse stiffly. Ambush. Wilson had men on both sides. Clark's dead!" His voice broke. "Took a bullet meant for me." Laya's heart sank. "And Eli?" "Covering our retreat. Sent me ahead with this." Foster pulled the bill of sale with Silas Crow's signature from his coat. "Said to get you and this to Fort Union no matter what." "We can't leave him," Laya insisted. McKenna knows what he's doing," Foster cut in. "He and Wilson have history. He's buying us time." He winced, pressing his wound. "Time we can't waste arguing." Grey Wolf checked Foster's wound. Bullet still inside. "Need medicine." "No time," Foster said. "We have to reach the main road." "You'll bleed out," Laya argued. Foster gave a grim smile. "Not planning to, ma'am." While Grey Wolf bandaged Foster's wound, Laya looked back at the ridge. The morning sun showed Devil's Backbone, a cruel strip of rock across the chasm. No sign of Eli. She closed her eyes, remembering their talk about peace, purpose, dreams worth fighting for. When she opened them, she'd decided. "Deputy Foster," she said, returning to them. "You and Running Fox go to Fort Union. Grey Wolf and I will wait for Eli. Miss Byrne, this isn't—" Laya stopped him, firm. "You're hurt. You have the proof. Your job is to get it to Marshal Graham." Foster wanted to argue, but pain and sense won. 24 hours, he said. "If McKenna doesn't come, you follow us. Promise." Laya nodded, though promises meant little out here. As Foster and Running Fox got ready to go, Laya approached the deputy. "Ben," she said softly, using his first name. "Thank you for everything." Foster's face softened. "We'll see this through, Miss Byrne. All of us, Laya," she corrected. "After all we've been through, call me Laya." A small smile crossed his lips. "Stay safe, Laya. Tell the captain," he paused. "Tell him I didn't run this time. Don't worry. Once I get Marshal Graham, we're coming back for him. Captain McKenna gave me a second chance when he could have walked away. I'll do the same." Laya saw the resolve in his eyes. The young Confederate who ran at the war's end was now standing firm for something he believed in. After they left, Laya and Grey Wolf found a spot with a clear view of the ridge, hidden by brush and rocks. "McKenna, strong warrior," Grey Wolf said as they settled to wait. "He'll come." Laya nodded, holding that hope despite growing fear. She'd lost too many already. Her parents, maybe Rebecca. Not Eli, too. Not when she was starting to see the quiet strength driving him. Hours passed slowly. The sun climbed, then began sinking west. No sign of Eli or Wilson's men. Grey Wolf hunted, bringing back a small rabbit he cooked efficiently. Laya ate without thinking, eyes on the ridge. As dusk came, Grey Wolf got restless. "Night's coming," he said. "Not safe here after dark." "Just a bit longer," Laya begged. The warrior looked at her with old eyes that had seen too much death. "Man you wait for may not come." "He will," Laya insisted, though her voice wavered. Grey Wolf stayed quiet, his face showing kindness that nearly broke her. The sun touched the horizon, painting the land blood red. Shadows stretched like fingers. A coyote called, its lonely sound echoing Laya's unspoken grief. She was about to give up when Grey Wolf tensed. "Movement," he whispered, pointing to the ridge. Laya squinted into the fading light. At first nothing, then a shadow moving slowly along the path. A man on foot, leading a horse, walking unevenly. "Eli," she breathed, relief flooding her. Grey Wolf held her arm. "Wait, maybe Trick." They watched as the figure got closer. Even far off, Laya could see he was hurt. One arm hung limp, and he favored his left leg. "It's him," she said. "Sure," shaking off Grey Wolf's hand and standing. She ran to the ridge's end, heart pounding. As Eli came out of the shadows, she saw his injuries. Blood stained his shirt and pants. A rough bandage wrapped his thigh. His face was bruised, a cut above his eye crusted with blood. But he was alive. "Eli," she called. He looked up, surprise and relief on his battered face. "Laya, what are you doing here? Where's Foster?" "On his way to Fort Union with Running Fox." She reached him, hands hovering over his wounds. "You're hurt bad." "I've had worse." He managed a grim smile that turned into a wince. "Wilson?" No sign of him. "What happened back there?" Eli shook his head. "Later. We need to move, find shelter." He glanced at Grey Wolf, who'd come up quietly. Clark. The warrior's face said it all. Eli closed his eyes briefly, taking in another loss. "He died well," Grey Wolf said simply, "as a warrior." Eli nodded, accepting it. Then he straightened, hiding a grimace. "We need to go. Wilson's not far behind." "You can't travel like this," Laya protested. "No choice," Eli said firmly, despite his weakness. "Wilson won't stop, and we still need Fort Union." Grey Wolf spoke in his language, pointing to the setting sun. Eli answered in the same tongue, slow but clear. "What is it?" Laya asked. "Grey Wolf knows a place," Eli said. "A cave system nearby. Good spot to defend. We rest there tonight, move at dawn." As they helped Eli onto his horse, Laya saw him bite back pain. His usual smooth moves were stiff. He was running on willpower alone. "What happened with Wilson?" she asked as they rode slowly to the cave. Is he dead?" Eli's face darkened. "No. Got away, hurt but alive. Then he'll keep coming." "Yes." Eli met her gaze. "That's why you should have gone with Foster." "And leave you to die alone?" Laya shook her head. "Not a chance, Mr. McKenna." A faint smile crossed Eli's lips. "You're as stubborn as Maria was." "I'll take that as a compliment. It was." They rode quietly, the land turning purple around them. Laya stayed close to Eli, ready to help if he swayed. She had questions, but they could wait. For now, he was alive. The cave Grey Wolf led them to was hidden behind junipers, its entrance hard to see until they were close. Inside, it opened into chambers big enough for them and the horses. While Grey Wolf secured the entrance, Laya helped Eli off his horse and against the cave wall. In the dim light, his face looked ghostly under his tan and bruises. "Let me see your wounds," she insisted, gently taking off his bloody coat. Eli didn't argue, which showed how bad he felt. The bullet in his arm went through muscle, missing bone, but left a ragged hole that bled a lot. His leg was grazed, painful but not bad. Worse were the bruises on his chest, signs of a brutal fight. "Wilson always liked using his fists," Eli said dryly as she checked him. Laya tore strips from her petticoat for bandages. "You fought him with these injuries." "Didn't have a choice." Eli winced as she cleaned his arm. "We were the last on the ridge." Clark was down. "Foster hit. Wilson had me trapped." "What happened to his men?" "2 dead. Rest ran when the Apache hit from the side." He paused, gathering strength. "Wilson and it got personal. Always was." Laya worked quietly, taking it in. "You could have killed him," she said. "Why didn't you?" Eli looked at memories only he saw. "There was a time I would have wanted to." He breathed out slowly. "But killing Wilson won't bring Maria back. Won't save your sister. Won't change what matters." "So you let him go?" "No." Eli's face hardened. He fell off the ridge. "Caught a ledge 20 feet down. Could have shot him. But you didn't." "No." He met her eyes. "Not because he deserved mercy. He doesn't. But because I'm done being what the war made me." Laya got it. This was the peace Eli talked about. Not in revenge or even justice, but in choosing to stop the cycle of violence that shaped his life since the war. "You're a good man, Eli McKenna," she said softly, using his first name without thinking. He looked surprised, then something softened in his eyes. "Not always," he said, "but I'm trying." Grey Wolf came back with water from a spring in the cave. He'd gathered herbs, crushing them with water to make a paste for Eli's wounds. "Rest now," the warrior said. "I watch." Eli nodded, grateful, struggling to stay awake. Blood loss and exhaustion were hitting hard now that danger had passed. Laya sat by him, knees to her chest, as Grey Wolf went to guard the entrance. The only sounds were Eli's heavy breathing and the horse's occasional steps. "You should have gone with Foster," Eli mumbled, half asleep. "I'm right where I should be," Laya said firmly. As Eli fell into exhausted sleep, Laya stayed alert, her hand touching the knife in her boot. The Apache woman's gift for your heart to cut it free. She was starting to understand. Not just freedom for Rebecca, but for herself. Freedom from grief and fear that drove her this past year. Freedom to hope, to dream. Outside, the desert night deepened. Stars shone bright against the black sky. Somewhere, Foster was riding to Fort Union with the evidence to stop Holbrook. Somewhere, Rebecca was waiting, maybe thinking she was forgotten. And somewhere, Cole Wilson was licking his wounds and hatred, ready to hunt again. But for now, in this fragile peace, Laya let herself believe tomorrow held more than survival. That their journey would end not in blood, but in justice and healing. In a cave miles away, Cole Wilson fixed his own wounds with grim focus. The fall from Devil's Backbone broke 3 ribs and popped his shoulder out, which he forced back with a muffled scream. The 2 men who found him, the last of his team, watched nervously as he stitched a deep cut on his arm, his face showing no pain. "How far to Willow Creek?" Wilson asked, voice rough from thirst. "Day's ride, boss," the younger man said. "If we push hard." Wilson nodded, cutting the thread with his teeth. "Then that's where we go." "What about McKenna and the girl?" the other asked. "Judge Holbrook wants them dead, and dead they'll be." Wilson's eyes gleamed with cold anger in the dim light. "But first I want McKenna to hurt, like I hurt." He touched his ribs carefully. "And there's only one way to hurt a man like him." "The girl?" Wilson smiled, a chilling look with no humanity. "No, something worse." He wrapped a bandage around his arm. "McKenna's going to Willow Creek. He doesn't know it yet, but that's where this ends." "How can you be sure?" "Because I know him better than he knows himself." Wilson's voice dropped low. "And I know his weakness." In the firelight's shadows, he smiled again. Revenge would be sweet, and Holbrook would get his money's worth. Eli McKenna's body, the girl's, too. But first, Wilson had a surprise waiting at Willow Creek, one that would break McKenna worse than any bullet. Dawn came slowly, light filtering into the cave, showing dust in the air. Eli woke suddenly, grabbing his rifle before remembering. He was in a cave. Grey Wolf found shelter. Laya stayed. Laya. He turned to see her sleeping nearby, curled up, one hand still stretched toward him, like she fell asleep watching his wounds. Something tightened in his chest. A feeling he hadn't had since Maria. "You care for this woman." Grey Wolf's voice, calm and sure, came from the cave entrance where he'd kept watch. Eli didn't answer right away, testing his hurt arm and leg. The pain was there, but okay. Grey Wolf's herbs reduced swelling and kept infection away. "She's brave," he said finally. "Stubborn." Grey Wolf's face stayed blank, but his eyes knew. "Like your wife." Eli didn't reply. He pushed himself up, wincing at his sore ribs. "How far to the main road?" "Half a day's ride." Grey Wolf moved into the cave, but we're followed. Eli tensed. "Wilson." The warrior shook his head. "Others? 4 men. Holbrook's hunters." "How close?" 2 hours, maybe less." Eli cursed quietly. They had to move fast, but his injuries would slow them. "Wake Miss Byrne," he decided. "We need to reach the road before they find us." As Grey Wolf woke Laya, Eli checked their situation. His rifle was okay, but ammo was low. The horses were tired but usable. Food and water were short, and their chasers were closing in. Bad odds, but he'd faced worse. Laya woke fast, instantly alert, a skill from months in danger. Her eyes found Eli, relief clear when she saw him up. "How are you feeling?" she asked, checking his bandages. "Better," Eli said. "Not quite true." "We need to move. Holbrook's men are on our trail." She nodded, accepting the urgency. What about your wounds? I've ridden with worse. He met her worried look steadily. Fort Union's our only shot now for your sister and justice against Holbrook. Leah held his gaze, then nodded. She understood what was at stake beyond just their lives. They broke camp fast, erasing signs of their stay. Grey Wolf led them through a back cave passage to a narrow canyon, giving cover for their start. Eli rode stiffly, hiding pain with every move of his horse. The morning passed in tense silence as they pushed east toward the main road to Fort Union. The land changed from red rock canyons to hills with scrub pine and juniper. They were leaving the wild's protection, entering lands used by settlers and soldiers. Near noon, Grey Wolf stopped them at a ridge's crest. Below, a rough road snaked through the valley, just wagon ruts, but the route to Fort Union. Road there, Grey Wolf pointed. Fort Union 1 day's ride south. Eli looked over the open land with a soldier's eye. No cover for miles. We'll be seen by anyone watching. No choice now, the Apache said. Men follow close. As if to prove it, a dust cloud appeared northwest. Riders coming fast. How many men at Willow Creek Ranch? Leah asked suddenly. Eli turned, surprised. 20, maybe more. Why? It's closer than Fort Union, isn't it? Grey Wolf nodded. Half a day's ride north. Eli understood. Too dangerous. We stick to the plan. Get to Fort Union. No time, Leah insisted, eyes on the dust cloud. Those men will catch us on the open road. We need a hiding spot until Foster brings help. Willow Creek's not hiding, Grey Wolf said. It's the snake's nest. Exactly, Leah said. The last place they'd expect us. Her voice softened. Rebecca's there, I know it. Eli studied her determined face, so like Maria when she'd decided something. Arguing was useless. It's a trap, he said instead. Wilson will have warned Holbrook. They'll be waiting. Then we don't use the front door. Leah turned to Grey Wolf. You know the ranch. Is there another way in? The Apache thought. Water flows through the ranch. Creek comes from the north through a narrow canyon. Guards don't watch there because it's too tight for horses or wagons. Eli summed it up. Grey Wolf nodded. But a man can walk. A woman can walk. Eli weighed their few options. The dust cloud was bigger. Their chasers would reach the ridge soon. If they took the road to Fort Union, they'd be easy targets in the open. Willow Creek was closer and offered surprise. It was also where Rebecca was, the whole reason for their trip. If they could sneak in, maybe find Rebecca and more proof of Holbrook's scheme. A risky move, but sometimes the risky one was all you had. All right, Eli decided. Willow Creek it is, but we scout first. No heroics. He looked at Leah, who looked a bit sheepish. They turned north along the ridge to stay hidden. Grey Wolf led through gullies and draws, using the land to hide them. The dust cloud behind seemed to pause at the ridge, then split. Some riders heading to Fort Union, others north. They've guessed our path, Eli said grimly. Or covering both, Leah suggested. Either way, time was short. By late afternoon, they reached a spot overlooking Willow Creek Ranch, hidden among pines. They studied the layout. The ranch sat in a valley cut by the creek. The main house stood high at the south end, a big 2-story place with a wide porch. Nearby was a bunkhouse for guards, a barn, and several outbuildings. On the east side, half hidden by cottonwoods, were 3 long, low buildings with a high fence. Women kept there, Grey Wolf said, pointing to the fenced area, like a prison. Eli looked through his field glasses. Lots of action for a cattle ranch with no cattle. He counted 15 armed men patrolling. They're expecting trouble. Us, Leah said quietly. Maybe Eli kept watching. Or something else is up. Look. He handed Leah the glasses. Those men by the main house, not ranch hands. Leah looked. 3 well-dressed men got out of a carriage, greeted by a tall, white-haired man she guessed was Judge Holbrook. Who are they? Buyers, Eli said grimly. Clark mentioned an auction. Looks like it's happening sooner than we thought. Leah's face showed horror. They're selling the women tonight, including your sister, if she's there. Grey Wolf, scanning the north edge, spoke. Creek enters there through rocks. No guards. Eli followed his gaze to a narrow gap where Willow Creek came from the hills. Too tight for horses, but we can walk. That's our way in, Eli decided, after dark. What about our horses? Laya asked. Leave them here. Grey Wolf will watch them. Eli turned to the Apache. If we're not back by dawn, I come looking, Grey Wolf finished firmly. Eli nodded, knowing not to argue. If we can find Rebecca and get out unseen, we will. If not, he paused. If not, we'll need a distraction to escape. Fire, Grey Wolf suggested. North buildings away from the women. Draw guards there? Good. Eli gave Grey Wolf his spare revolver. 3 quick shots if we need that distraction. As they waited for dark, Eli watched Laya. She sat against a pine, eyes closed, lips moving like she was praying. Despite the danger, exhaustion, and fear for her sister, she had a quiet strength that impressed him. You should rest, he said, sitting beside her. It'll be a long night. Her eyes opened, meeting his. I was thinking about what we'll find down there, what Rebecca's been through. Eli had no comforting words. They both knew what places like Willow Creek were like. We'll get her out, he said instead. Whatever shape she's in. And the others, the other women, them too, if we can. He hesitated. But Rebecca first. We find her. Laya nodded, understanding the need to focus. Thank you, she said softly. For everything. You didn't have to help me. Yes, I did. Eli's voice was quiet but sure. Some wrongs can't be ignored, not if you want to live with yourself. They sat quietly, lost in thought as the sun sank west. Shadows grew and lights appeared in the main house. More carriages arrived, more fancy men coming to buy lives. Eli checked his weapons, rifle, revolver, knife. His injuries hurt, but adrenaline would push him through. It had to. Laya pulled the knife from her boot, the one from the Apache woman. I'm ready, she said simply. Darkness fell over the valley. They waited until the moon rose, a thin crescent giving just enough light without exposing them. Leaving the horses with Grey Wolf, Eli and Laya started the tricky climb down to the creek. The narrow canyon was tougher than it looked. Rock walls closed in and the creek bed had slippery boulders. They moved slowly, careful not to make noise that could alert guards. Water soaked their boots and pants in deeper spots, the cold hitting their tired bodies. Eli's wounds ached, but he ignored them, focusing on each step. After what felt like hours, the canyon opened a bit. Ahead were cottonwoods marking the ranch's edge. Guards, Laya whispered, barely audible over the creek's gurgle. Eli saw 2 by the first fence. They hid behind a boulder, watching the guards pattern. Every 15 minutes they walked the fence, then went back to a small fire for warmth. We wait for them to finish their round, Eli murmured. Then move along the creek to the compound's back. Laya nodded, her face pale in the moonlight but determined. When the guards started their patrol, moving away, Eli and Laya slipped out, staying low, following the creek as it curved behind the fenced area. The fence was tall, 10 feet of solid wood with barbed wire. But where the creek went under, there was a culvert with iron bars. Can we get through? Laya asked, eyeing the small gap. Eli checked the bars. They're rusted. Might break. Using his knife as a lever, ignoring his arm's pain, Eli worked a weak bar. It groaned but gave, making a space just big enough to squeeze through. You first, he told Laya. I'll follow. She paused, then slid into the cold water and through the gap. Eli followed, his bigger frame scraping the rusted metal. A sharp edge caught his wounded arm, tearing it open. He held back a curse as blood soaked his sleeve. Inside, they were in a narrow space between the fence and the building's back walls, with no windows. Which building? Laya whispered. Eli listened. From the middle one he heard muffled voices. Movement. That one, he decided.